there's anything like a whistle-stop tour, that's what we've seen from Labour Party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi, as he intensifies his activities on the campaign trail. And now, to help us look at the matter on this hand, which is the appropriateness of otherwise the campaign rhetoric, we are now being joined by Professor Chris Nwokobia, who is a member of the Obi Dati Presidential Campaign Council. Nwokobia is also the convener of the Country First movement. Great to have you here.
Hello everyone, good day according to your time. Welcome back to Learning the Key. Hope you guys are doing well. Please, if you are seeing my channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and kindly hit on the notification button. Yes guys, I saw this video that I really want to share with you because it's really a video that Nigerians need to know. Like, you really need to know what is going on, and the way the candidates, they are really giving it like back to back, you know, for fire to fire, the way they are really giving it to each others, and the way Peter Obi is defending himself as well. The way he's defending himself, and according to this news, there was one of his opponents that even called him like he's a joker, you know, like as if, you know, when you tell somebody you are a joker, it's like you are kidding, you don't really know what you are talking about, like you don't have the idea. So I want you guys to listen and kindly share this video. Please, if you are seeing my channel, don't forget to subscribe. Ciao.
Yes, sir.
It's my pleasure to be on with you today.
Yes, good morning. All right, let's kick off with this question. Firstly, when we look at the term civility in political engagement, what exactly are we talking about here? Because many people expect that political season should be full of debates and sometimes even rancor. What's your opinion on that?
I think it simply connotes or demands that those who are involved in the political contestation must be civil, must deal with issues with decorum, mutual respect, and candor. I think it's simple. Nigerians are looking for a new republic, a new tendency in leadership, and at the core of the demands of the Electoral Act is for civility, is for candor, is for proper comportment and behavior, is to remove from hate speech ethno-religious sentiments and tendencies and deal with the issues rather than insulting the persons that you're against in the electoral process.
All right, Chris, thanks. We can see now that, again, the candidate, the presidential candidate of your party, Mr. Peter Obi, has shown concern by what he, you know, the reprimand that he has given to the governorship candidate of the party in Benue State, and by extension, you know, to other members, to, you know, to all his supporters, to moderate what they say to other people. A lot of people think, Chris, that part of what informed that could also be the manner in which obedience, you know, have descended on the governor of Anambra State, Professor Charles Soludo, over what he said about how the investments that Peter Obi left is performing. But then people are like, yes, it's good for Mr. Obi to ask his supporters to moderate their views. But then it's not, it doesn't seem to care about how he's been pummeled by the opposition. And one case, you know, at hand will be the way that people felt that the running mate of the APC, Kashim Shettima, crossed the line recently when he referring to Mr. Obi's middle name, Gregory, and it says that you know, it's a gringory, thereby suggesting that it's just a joker or a comedian. But then there hasn't been any response from your camp or directly from Mr. Obi. So people are wondering, why are you asking your people to moderate their views when it doesn't look like those that you are running against, you know, are applying the same measure? What do you think about that?
Let me say very importantly and clearly that one candidate stands head and shoulder above the other candidates in terms of candor, in terms of civility, in terms of understanding that what we are about is to fix our country, reset our politics, and deepen the values upon which we contest for elective office. I want to say without equivocation that Nigerians are aware that the man who has been the most civil is Peter Gregory Obi. The man who has been most respectful of the other candidates is our principal. But let me say, very, very importantly, that the reason our principal hasn't given that statement that proceeded from the APC vice presidential candidate a major concern is that if you look at the anatomy of our politics since the campaigns began, you will understand that one candidate is apparently the most serious. His message resonates. He's gone across the country, he's talking to people, and there's a monstrous following. So you don't refer to that candidate as a joker. Is it a joke that we left the cliche 4 men or people tweeting in a room or sending messages to becoming the most talked about ticket, the most talked about candidacy? Is it a joke that Nigerians troop out in the streets across the Federal Republic of Nigeria to salute and identify with the candidacy of Peter Gregory Obi? Is it a joke that essentially he's the one who has spoken to Nigerians at home and in the diaspora over 57 times since he got the ticket of the Labour Party? Is it a joke that Edo State was shut down because of obedience across the country? You heard the Oba of Benin when he talked about interrogating the child, the Middle Ages, and people above 90, and they said that they know the candidate of the Labour Party. Is it a joke? Is it a joke that Benue State was agog with support for Peter Gregory Obi? It's not a joke. So why would you address people who are involved in gibberish, hubris, and tummy rot? Why would you address it? You know, fundamentally, what we have on our political kaleidoscope presently, my dear brother, is the fact that some people are apparently frustrated, some people are apparently scared, some people are apparently jittery because Nigerians have risen in their numbers and they're ready, willing, and able to take back their country. What we're talking about is politics of issues. That was why Peter Gregory asked the obedience across the country to remain civil. You know, Steve had said on this forum at some point that the obedience are not unruly. The obedience are fierce. They believe that the time to take back their country is now. I'll give you an instance of what you call unruly conduct and unruly statements. The vice presidential candidate of a party refers to one of the leading presidential candidates as a joker, calls him Gringory. That's unruly, that's disrespectful. Some others are apparently everywhere, like you use the word Pumel. It's all about Peter Obi, and it is a function of their frustration, is a function of their jitteriness, is a function of their desperation. But we're not deterred, we're not bothered. What is important for us is to keep preaching the message and to re-energize the Nigerian people and tell them that power can truly be taken back by the Nigerian people, and that come 2023, we shall have a new republic, a new day, a new tendency in governance, and Nigerians will definitely be the owners of their democracy.
All right. Well, there is no doubt that there's been that criticism by a cross-section of Nigerians, of supporters of Peter Obi. Some have said that their assertive support has had an adverse effect on his campaign. Others have called them rude, you know, like you've said. Even more recently, during the presidential town hall series hosted by Arise News, Peter Obi had to caution Dino Melaye over unwarranted attacks of his supporters. In our discussion, we're talking about Obi advising his supporters to desist from name calling. Now, can you help us understand or even draw the line between freedom of speech and derogatory statements? You know, you have described obedience as victims of failed system. How can they know the difference between derogatory statements? Because some people would say calling Governor Autumn a deceased may not be a derogatory statement. Can you help us draw the line here?
Let me say very importantly that when we talk about freedom of speech, fantastic. We must continue, like our principal, Peter Gregory Obi has said, we must consistently deal with issues rather than the persona. We must consistently handle our issues with candor and civility rather than throwing darts. And obedience are number one in candor, civility, and comportment. You have seen the diatribes of the likes of Dino Melai. You have seen the diatribes of the likes of Reno Omokri. You have seen the diatribes of the likes of my friend and brother, Festus Keyamo. But the obedience have fiercely conducted their campaigns. They're talking about issues and the need to take back our country for good. Principally, let me say that regarding what happened at that town hall meeting, I'll give you a practical instance. Between two presidential candidates debating in the United States of America, at some point, Biden turned up to George Bush and said, "Shut up and stop lying." You know, that is not an insult, but that was a statement of fact because he was consistently lying. What Dino did was try to get under the skin of our principal, and to caution him was appropriate and right, because you don't consistently try to get under people's skin and then watch them. If he hadn't done that, Dino perhaps wouldn't have behaved, and that town hall meeting would have been rancorous and unruly. But I say with all sense of respect that those who think that we have a candidate who will cower uninformed, that we're resolute, civil, and well-behaved does not mean that we don't know when to ask people to behave rightly. Dino has consistently in several fora been very unsenatorial, and come to think of it, the time has come for somebody to ask him to behave right when it has to do with issues that are fundamentally important to how our nation is governed. I want to say that if you were to make a comparative, and this is sincere, a comparative analysis of what obtains in our political amphitheater presently, the most and the best behaved team in the political contestation and power struggle for 2023 are the obedience. We have talked about fundamental issues about how we must take back our country for good. We've talked about how between the Leviathan, the APC, and the Behemoth, the PDP, it's been about 23 years of failure. Lights out, 23 years of economic uncertainties, 23 years of joblessness, 23 years of an educational sector that has gone almost kaput and comatose. It's been about 23 years of failure and failed promises. So if the obedience are fierce about it, that's not being unruly. If the obedience are dealing with issues, that's not being unruly. The obedience are saying that the time has come for us to take our country from the nada to the promise. The obedience are saying that this is the time to revolutionize how we are governed. This is the time to reset, reshape, and restructure our country for good. This is the time to make good values and integrity, as well as capacity and competency, the summum bonum on our political amphitheater. And these are fundamental issues that we must celebrate and hail the obedience for, rather than throw darts and invectives at those who truly mean well for our country.
All right. You did mention earlier that, of course, this frustration could also translate into, sometimes it's quite misconstrued in order, in the manners in which it's been expressed. But beyond appealing to the supporters of the Obidati movement to comport themselves within the modest limits of order and civility, let's look at some of the repercussions and implications of perhaps acting otherwise, not just for the Labour Party, but for, indeed, across all the political parties in Nigeria. Are there any?
Oh yeah, the Electoral Act forbids hate speech. The Electoral Act forbids violence. It forbids insults and invectives. And interestingly, Section 97 of the Electoral Act 2022 clearly says that for any candidate to invoke ethnocentric sentiments in the prosecution of his campaign, that will be deemed against the provisions of the Electoral Act. Unfortunately, the two other leading candidates have consistently deployed ethnocentric theatrics and philosophies in the pursuit of their candidacy. The only candidate who has spoken to Nigerians and the only candidate who apparently among the leading four, who's apparently pushing a pan-Nigerian philosophy is Peter Obi. He's the only one who has told Nigerians, do not vote for me because I'm evil. Vote for me because of my competency and capacity. And that's exactly what the law of our land talks about. But some have said, oh, I want to be a northern candidate who thinks about Nigeria. Some have said, it's my turn, Emir Lokon, to rule Nigeria. Some have said it has to be Southwest for a Southwest candidate. But I think that fundamentally we must understand that hunger is indiscriminate of ethnicity, that hunger is indiscriminate of religion. We must understand that joblessness is indiscriminate of ethnicity and religion. And we must understand that insecurity is indiscriminate of region and religion. And so fundamentally, what Nigeria needs going forward is a candidate who appeals to every tendency and faith, is a candidate who is pan-Nigerian, is a candidate who sees Nigeria as a collective enterprise and belongs to the Hausa man as well as it does the Igbo man, belongs to the Yoruba man as it does the Efik man, belongs to the Robo man as it does the Jokun man. And that candidate is Peter Obi. And that is why when we talk about these fundamental issues about the way forward for our country, we're talking about removing from ethnocentric sentiments, removing from insult diatribes and, if you like, name-calling to the fundamental issues of nationhood. And the candidate to whom that matters and the candidate to whom that is of primacy is Peter Obi of the Labour Party.
All right, but Mr. Nwokobi, I want to take you back, please. We still want to get from you what the likely implications of going otherwise could be for political parties across the country. I don't think that's been spelled out.
The Electoral Act says that INEC has the right to disqualify. Will they? I hope they can step their feet on the ground and ensure that either they give express warning to the candidates or they proceed to employ and deploy the provisions of the law to disqualify any candidate who decides to deepen our fault lines and who decides to polarize our country on the grounds of ethnicity and religion. I think that the time has come for us to work towards a republic that advances the frontiers of brotherhood rather than division.
All right, Chris, I like the fact that you've described the obedience as fierce but civil. I will add that they are intensely fierce and they are relentlessly fierce, especially on Twitter. But where I'm going with that is the last month's Fitch rating, prediction that there is the likelihood that the candidate of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, might win in February. And that if that happens, the obedience, the supporters of Peter Obi might be unhappy as to be disruptive. And Fitch is saying that there may be a disruption to social conduct, to civil, rule, to society, if that happens. So my question is a two-part thing. One, do you agree with that poll by Fitch that they think that Bola Ahmed Tinubu will likely win the race? And secondly, do you think that these fierce, obedient followers of yours will not accept that result if Bola Ahmed Tinubu or Atiku, for example, is declared the winner, because they would think that the vote or the ballot has been stolen or victory has been stolen? Will that be the position of the obedience in February next year?
In attempting that question, I would take from my senior frater and may God bless his soul, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the sage, who said that regarding elections, when you see the figures, you know. Regarding elections, when you see the monstrous support of a candidate, you will understand what naturally should be. And he was making a reference regarding what happened at some point between Bola Ige and Olunloyo. I think I'm correct. Now, let me say with all sense of seriousness that we've had about 6-7 polls. All others came out with profound prognosis about the possible victory, which of course is almost clearly before every Nigerian that is going to happen, of Peter Obi. Only one came with a caveat. That's the Fitch one that you talked about. And so for me, I wouldn't look at the caveat. The period is still a long way off. And the fierceness of the obedience, and I want to define it clearly, Steve, the fierceness of the obedience goes to fundamental issues of nationhood. As you and I talk, the question is, why would Nigerians vote a party that has given us, that gave us 80 promises in 2014, 2015, and did not fulfill any? Go look at the manifesto. And then in 2022, they've come with 82-point manifesto, having failed woefully in meeting the terms of their 2014, 2015 manifesto. They're coming with another manifesto. That's point number one. Then point number two, fundamentally, between you and I, Steve, we know that the APC, under the APC, we've had about 32 months, we had about 32 months of ASU strike. They've left our educational structure comatose and, if you like, uneventful and unproductive. We have the value of the naira as it is today. We have an economy that is troubled. I don't know where Fitch got their statistics from, but I know that Nigerians are bitter with what is happening today. And then progressively, if you look at what Nigerians are saying across, and I want to paraphrase the statement of the Oba of Benin 2 days ago. You are aware that he said he took his own personal poll. He tried to find out what young people, the Middle Ages, and the very old things about the candidacy of Peter Obi and the obedience, and he was overwhelmed. The truth is that the best way to get the statistics and the polls of what is happening in this country is that flag seller, Steve, that was captured on tape. They asked him, how much is the Labour Party flag? And he said 500 naira. They asked him, how much is the PDP flag? He said 300 naira. And then they asked him, how much is the APC flag? He said he doesn't sell the APC flag because no one is buying. And you take it to the other issues fundamentally, and you understand that between, like I said, between the Leviathan and the Behemoth, we've had 23 years of failure. Nigerians are asking for a new tendency. That is the fierceness of the obedience, not unruliness. We're not, look at the marches that you've seen across this country. They were absolutely peaceful. Steve, the only people who have been attacked across this country have been obedience. Our flag boys have been attacked in Lagos. Some have been injured, some have been wounded. The only time we heard about some kind of unruliness and an attack on the other leading party, the PDP, was in Maiduguri. But consistently, the party that has dealt with this campaign with the highest level of candor and civility has been the Labour Party, has been the candidate Peter Obi, and has been the obedience. We have been consistently the victims of attack, the victims of diatribe. But our fierceness is on issues, and we'll continue to do that until the election is won come February 2023.
Earlier, you touched on spokespersons of political parties attacking presidential candidates of opposing parties. You cited the example of Dino Melaye and Reno Mokri, who have continued to criticize Peter Obi on social media. I wanted you to address, how much effect this has on the political process as a whole and the candidates they represent.
It's been largely negative with respect to the fact that they are consistently hitting the polity with diatribes and invectives. But you know what? What is interesting is that the more they throw diatribes and invectives at the obedience, the more determined, the fiercer we become, because we're dealing fundamentally with the issues. And we're telling Nigerians that the need and the time for a new republic, a new day, a new tendency in governance is now. We're consistently telling Nigerians that we want to take back our country for good. So what it does is the more they throw darts at us, the more focused, the more determined we are to take back our country. So likely, their diatribes, their stones, and their invectives have become a fillip of sorts to us who believe that Nigeria belongs to Nigerians and the time for a new republic is now.
All right, Chris, are you bothered that Governor Soludo said what he said about the state of the of the investment that Peter Obi left in Anambra? Do you think that where a number of people from the southeast, particularly governors and highly relevant political people, are beginning to bear their fangs against the son of the soil as far as the southeast is concerned, Peter Obi? And secondly, where is your manifesto?
Let me say, Steve, and these are very germane questions. The first one regarding the governor of Anambra State. I would pray and hope that he outperforms Peter Obi. I would pray and hope that he outperforms Obiano, because consistently he's taking, remember he wanted to succeed Peter Obi as the governor of Anambra State, and somehow it didn't work. I hope and pray that he doesn't allow his anger, his jealousy to becloud his sense of judgment. Because I want to give you an instance, Steve. You have somebody who preceded your watch in Anambra State who did not only leave resources in the coffers of the state up to the tune of about 78 billion. He constructed about a 10-lane road connecting the head bridge to the town. He opened the cities. Don't forget that one of the ministers of the present government did allude to the fact that Peter Obi was a success, and that in his second term, he made infrastructure a major issue. Now, when Soludo used the word that Peter Obi's investments were practically next to nothing, Darius Ishak, who I think is the governor of Taraba State, came out to say that when he confronted Obiano regarding the airport in Anambra State, Obiano clearly told him that he built that airport with the monies Peter Obi saved for the state. And then don't forget that whilst Peter Obi was the governor of Anambra State, the educational graph had Anambra State at number 26. In 3 years, it was number 1. Don't also forget, because I'm coming to the core of that question, don't also forget that he wasn't owing a salary, a pension, or any kind of emolument when he left power. Don't also forget that he did not put the state in debt. He did not borrow any money. Don't also forget that the schools were doing well because he equipped the schools. Don't also forget, very importantly, that the then Inspector General of Police, MD Abubakar, said clearly that for 5 out of 8 years of Obi's watch over Anambra State, Anambra was the safest state in Nigeria. So I don't understand where the kindergarten jealousy, I don't understand where that pain and anger that Soludo has continued to throw up in the public space came from. But I think it's unbefitting of a governor from the southeast. I think he should busy himself with making Anambra State better than he met it. Then fundamentally, regarding how this pans out, don't also ignore the fact that if everyone in the southeast were singing Hail Peter Obi, then we'll be in trouble. The truth is that, like Marcus Aurelius said, when people who are corrupt gather and consistently throw diatribes at an individual, that individual is most likely and certainly the best person to go with. You ask yourself, who are those in the southeast who are consistently throwing darts at Peter Gregory Obi? The answer is known to every one of us. But what is important to our campaign is to consistently push the narrative of all the candidates, and basically the 4 leading candidates. One man comes to the party with the best credentials in terms of leadership. One man comes to the party with credibility, with competency and capacity. And I say this without equivocation.
Chris,
are you aware?
Chris, we're about leaving.
Almost all the governors.
Chris, we've almost run out of time.
Please, Steve. Steve, please let me. Yeah, please let me drop this. It's very important that of all the governors who served with Peter Gregory Obi, they all signed retirement disengagement emoluments to themselves, pensions and all kinds of things to themselves. Peter Gregory Obi is the only governor who is not drawing any emolument from Anambra State, because he said he went to serve his people and is out of service and he has his life to live. I think that the time has come for us to think about competency, capacity, sympathy, love, and empathy for our people. And the candidate who truly means well, who truly loves our people.
Just that we can't find your manifesto. We can't find your manifesto, Chris, but that's understandable. We've run out of time.
The manifesto is everywhere. It's everywhere. A 7-point agenda is a manifesto. And what we are going to give to Nigerians sooner rather than, and you know that, Steve, a 7-point agenda. When Yar'Adua ran for presidency in 2007, he had a 7-point agenda. It's a manifesto. What we're bringing to the Nigerian people in a few days is a working plan.
Okay.
We're not throwing at the Nigerian people the 80 points of lies that the APC threw in 2014, 2015, or the 82 points of lies and treachery that they threw up in 2022. We're talking about
Professor Nwakovia. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on the morning show this morning.